Okay with substantial overview?
Yes. Okay, ready? Humanism is the object in which the affirmative stares up. They've conceded that even if their efficacy is good for imaginative violence, and for imaginative violence, this violence happens on the plane of the real. Therefore, their attempts to defeat the system will only feed back into it, because this is where the system wants the battle to happen. We call this a feedback loop, the Mobius strip that cannot be escaped unless we gift the system with a sacrifice that its only response then would be a self-view. Now, they've also conceded virtually every reversibility claim made by the negative. Generic answers don't apply. This debate is way more nuanced than your bullshit. More specifically, you've conceded that the reversibility of openness and sameness, this is the reason as to why you ultimately culminate into the politics of the status quo. Your affirmative only serves to make things more visible, which in turn makes it more enigmatic, and all of this equals in an openness at risk and blowback. You may say that you are thickening the line, but that thickening of the line merely tries to make that space more open so we can understand the differences between us and the other. That difference between the us and the other opens up a space that leads to no blowback that we have impact here. Now, 3, you've conceded that the use of identity inside the debate is unlikely to change this world. Rampant impossibilities for multiple reasons, for 2 specifically devastating reasons. 8th one is that the for the nebulae field is nothing but a reversible sequencing of certainty attempts to oppose the system on the plane of the real. That you've conceded that the system wants this to happen on that plane of reality, the plane of not the plane of the symbolic order that you think that you somehow have access to by affirming the object of the animal. No, you do not have access to that, and it will only ever feedback, and it will only ever feedback and bite back itself. Now, B's point is that you don't have access to your affirmative anymore. We have it, and it's our hostages. This is our argument now. You don't just get to reclaim it. You have to come get it from us. Every point of offense in the 2AC is nothing but the opposing team striking out against itself. But we are not here. Somewhat like the war in Iraq, you strike out everywhere, but you will never find us. We are hiding with your argument in the cave full of anti-humanism. You have zero reason as to why we can't reclaim these arguments. We just say that we force an identity on you, and all of those reasons as to why we then solve better than the 1AC in a world where you are identifiable. The system will blow back against you and shut your politics down. So even if you win that the politics of the antimon is uniquely key inside of this space, we are winning the controlling frame about how that gets forwarded inside of places like the Academy, because the Academy will always identify projects like the 1AC and shut that shit down. So your ironic performance, or your attempt at ironic performance, is nothing but a lashing back against yourself, and the inevitable lashback the debate space will have against the 1AC, which probably is this add to the permutation, all of the reasons why the permutations will never be able to resolve the criticism. Even if we win, lastly, if we win any of these arguments, we win that the 1AC is comparatively better to go against the system than the 1AC is. Now, the F links back to itself in a way that only the affirmative can resolve. The F links back to itself in the only way that the negative can resolve. They are always driven by human reason that projects ethics, laws, morals, and values on to others. To embrace the anthropocentric means that embracing the F's ethical approach would be to orient ethics not as a universal truth, but premised on the particular and the paradoxical, only through the art of impossible exchange, where we acknowledge that ethics is always in flux and must be sacrificed in order to be preserved. Can we have actual criticism of anthropocentric dogmas? And 11. We humans have to accept that our ethics can make us an exception to be, we have to all the time of the ethics. Those who work in the animal studies leads them to reject human exceptionalism. At the heart of these projects is the paradox that the human is in the animal, and at the same time, the aforementioned field society can encode with the arsenal of the ethical imperatives about preserving, protecting, conserving, sanctifying, and saving, that they come with the notions of rights, duties, and moral status, conscious, law, and suffering. These things project onto the world. This is how the things should be, and we are to take seriously the former premises of this act of violation, being either to be denied or to be declared a mere fantasism. The equal being cannot have unequal effect on the rest. The denial of human exceptionalism entails the end of the ethical prescription. Unless we are prepared to welcome the nihilistic turn, we must shift our focus. Anthropocentrism is not the great evil to be denounced and eliminated, but a great problem to be embraced and directed. It is if there is to be a continued incentive. Ethics must be explicitly not anthropocentric. We shall produce all ethical authority for the blank page or society will penetrate deeper if we agree that all being in their work would, because they are human with unique skill sets and marks of distinction in language and culture and thousands other categories that interweave in the interplay. This is not anthropocentrism as chauvinism or prejudice, but as a non-optional starting point of work may be convincingly be constructed against the anthropocentric worldview, but as a starting point with no less based in the anthropocentric, which turns the entirety of the 1AC. The forwarding of the 1AC necessarily implies a humanist ethic that they are critiquing. They are going to say that cross-section of the 1AC says that they're anti-ethical. No, you're not anti-ethical. You say that we should affirm the thickening of the border between us and the animals so that we can understand our relation to us and it, which propagates some form of ethics that is uniquely humanist in its very being and in its very conception. That is an Enlightenment era philosophy that relies on humanism to propagate ethics as politics is the Rousseauian based analysis of how ethics gets forwarded inside of political base economies, which is probably a thing that the 1AC will never be able to resolve. Now I'll go to the line by line. Your two permutations I've already answered above. You can't take back the 1AC. We've already said that in order for you to have the 1AC, you have to be willing to put everything on the line. You're not willing to put everything on the line because it's a sign of cowardice. You only to say that we are going to take you hostage because we took you hostage. That is infinitely regressive and doesn't actually make sense. We say that we have identified you as something that will eventually be shut down, and that then causes you to be being able to be blown back against by the system, which creates the impacts of the 1NC that says that you can never resolve anything, i.e. like the liberation of the non-human animal, which you've conceded that would amount to nothing. Then modern forms of capital, we become living capital to be exchanged in the modern market of debate. Their demand for a fully ethical, fully aligned subject is not only ludicrous, but creates a debt to humanity that can never be repaid, but never can. This is more violent form of capital, Bourdieu 5. Freedom everyone aspires to. With this disagree, welcome and emancipation. The system turns its liberation to a duty to the point where it's difficult to distinguish liberation from a natural restoration towards a natural demand for freedom. This is a divided reaction that is barely any need for freedom to express that things become problematic when the prospect for the subject being unanswerable and undifferentiated universe. This symbolic this obligation is accompanied by deregulation, a contradictory impulse. A passion for rules is equal for a passion for deregulation. The demand for rules is fundamental for as a demand to be free from them, which impact turns the entirety of the 1AC because they forward you as an adjudicator, as a fully ethically aligned subject that has to somehow interrogate that human exceptionalism and eventually somehow resolve that via an affirmation of the 1AC. They're conceding the fact that this can never happen because it operates on the plane of the reality principle, which I've impacted above, but it also can't liberate anything because that form of liberation merely transforms into a form of capital that will only be consumed by the academy and be consumed by the very structures in which they are fighting against. Now you make a few arguments that don't really make sense. You say the alt is impossible because you can't embrace together. We're not about embracing together. We're not saying how that is uniquely problematic. Our argument is that you are identifiable, and because of that identification, you are able to be shut down. We don't necessarily have to disagree with the content of the 1AC, but we can disagree with the way in which the form is forwarded, which is the entire crux of our criticism. That says the form in which your 1AC is forwarded is uniquely problematic because it's identifiable and will get shut down. Now you say that you can embrace subversion, that your embrace is subversive. I think the Bourdieu 11 card impact the impact turns out and says that that's not necessarily true because you forward a human exceptionalism in the way in which you propagate your anti-ethics. Now your next argument is that the alternative can't resolve things. No. Yeah. Group those last four arguments. All of the Bourdieu terms are either not applicable to the criticism or irrelevant. The Robinson card that's talking about impulsive violence flows negative because it says how impulsive violence, i.e. our act of overbidding or our act of seduction via hostage taking of the 1AC allows us to blow up or disarticulate the way in which society functions and the system functions insofar that it allows it to see itself and die, because the only thing that can kill the system is itself. The only exchange that the system cannot accept is its own death, which is what the alternative is offering the system writ large, its own death via hostage taking. We have taken debate hostage. We say that that is good.
Okay, you ready?
Sure.
Okay, you say the 1AC is a humanist ethic. Why does your card substantiate that? Your Bodhiso card?
The Bodhi's card is talking about human exceptionalism in the context of ethics. The way ethical orientations occur is based on Enlightenment era humanism that says that in order to be ethical, or in order to be compassionate, there has to be a humanist understanding of what it is to be ethical and compassionate.
Humanist?
What?
Are all ethics necessarily human?
The way ethical political practice
I understand that's how it is in the
created.
scroll.
No, it's not what it is in the scroll. It's how it was created to be. Enlightenment era ethics, i.e. John Locke and Rousseau, said that.
Wait, so if I say
be,
you should not like shoot Joe, is that Enlightenment era ethics, and is that always?
That's how politics was formulated based off Enlightenment era philosophy.
Is that always bad? That relationship to the other?
How does that even connect our relationship to the other and like what is the question?
My question is, if I say you're going to shoot Joe and I say don't do that, right? That's an ethical like junction I put onto you.
That's not anywhere near what the Bodhi's card is talking about. The Bodhi's card is talking about a criticism of anthropocentrism, not understanding its grounding in humanist ethics.
Okay.
Which double turns the entirety of the 1AC. Where our argument is that the 1AC is a double turn because it says that we should understand the relationship between the human and the non-human.
Wait, when did we say anything about understanding the relationship?
By that, the whole
when we were like we can never
of the border between the human and the non-human, and we should not.
When we're like
completely
we can
know
never
the other.
understand the other, and we should
that's
stop
our argument.
trying.
That's exactly what I was getting to.
When we say we can never understand the other, and we should stop trying.
That's what I'm getting to.
That
we should stop trying because of some animant reasoning. That animant reasoning you have said in the 1AC and positioned in the 1AC as having a more ethical relationship towards alterity, that we are impact turning, that ethics is humanist.
What? We're like, we have to respect the alterity of the other because we have no other
Yes, to
choice.
be more ethical and to be more compassionate to the antimont. That's your 1AC cards. You have made that claim. That was the first cross-ex. And you tried to spin out of it and say that, no, we're anti-ethical. No, you're not anti-ethical. You are propagating ethics, which is grounded in human exceptionalism, which is grounded in Enlightenment era philosophy.
So all ethics are necessarily grounded in human exceptionalism. Like I understand, your card sort of substantiates this and says that like it starts from the position of the human, therefore that sort of bleeds into the ethical standards. Is there a means by which humanism could be contingent and undone?
On what? How?
Itself can be undone, and
I don't think the 1AC does
ethics
that.
outside of the human.
I don't think the 1AC does that.
The card is also a critique of the way in which ethics purport themselves to be political strategies, so it's a critique of the way in which you export your ethics, not just having ethical like qualms in the first place. That's like all of what we're doing in terms of framing this in terms of debate as a political activity.
Okay.
I'm just gonna